All right. So we've been working on this kind of theme of safety, and last week we were working on just feeling what safety feels like in the body when we're still, when we did a body scan. And the week prior to that, working on just developing any sense of safety through some guided imagery, mainly kind of creating a safe place and having that somewhere you can kind of turn towards. So if we're kind of going, okay, we have like a way to do that with imagination, a way to do that with so kind of visually in the body and in the mind and take you somewhere else. We also have a way to do that as we're still. Now we're going to kind of take it a step further and go, okay, well, what happens if we're moving? Because movement can create a lot for us at times. There's, balance, and there's different ways of coordinating, and as we're moving, are we still, do we start to shift into less safety, or do we feel safer, or where does that land for us? And so what I'd like to do today is more movement. So we're gonna start kind of today really use mindful movement, otherwise known as yoga, as our way to kind of explore safety, but explore it within the body. So we're not yet going to thoughts and emotions, but really movement at this point. And then next week and the week after, we'll start to go into, okay, thoughts, emotions, urges, like what starts to create or maybe dysregulate that sense of safety. So we're just going to kind of build one after the next. Yeah. So what I'd like you to do with this, and I mentioned this last week, just be curious and be kind of loose with that word safety. Sometimes we make a lot of it, ooh, but I got to feel 100% safe. Is this, that's not where we're getting at. What we're getting at is is there a sense of I feel safe in this moment? Is there a sense of maybe refuge that people describe, or a sense of feeling centered or grounded? So, I think last week as we were talking about all this afterwards, it was kind of the theme that arose is hey, presence feels pretty secure. And so that's kind of what we're looking for is, what are some things that take us out of the present? Are there times the present doesn't feel like that? So I'm encouraging you to use your kind of put at the forefront beginner's mind, that kind of curiosity of at what point does this feel safe and what point does this start to feel something different. And what I'd like to do today is, as we do movement and we're starting to kind of build on this, if you start to notice that, hey, I suddenly don't feel safe, or I feel dysregulated, or I don't feel grounded, or I feel a lack of presence, any of those things that are coming up, what I want you to do is kind of revert to the last thing you just did. So whatever that is. So let's say you're in a child's pose, and all of a sudden we move into a balancing pose, and that I'm something doesn't feel right. There's a dysregulation in your system. You start to feel off. Go back to the child's pose. Yeah, and then kind of come back to whatever we're doing and just be curious. What about this is feeling this way? Yeah, we're not going to do anything with it yet. This isn't about doing as much as let's just notice. Yeah, the doing will be go back to the thing you just felt grounded, safe, content in. Yeah. Another option in those moments is if you're well, I don't want to go back into this other pose, that's okay. Then maybe just pause and ask yourself, what do I need right now to help myself feel a little more grounded, a little more centered, safe, etc. Okay? And I'll guide you through that, and I'll be mentioning this throughout. So if you are I'm not really sure I understand, I'll lead it. And I think we'll be just fine. So why don't you go ahead and just kind of create some space for you to do some movement today. And in movement can look however you'd like. You can stay seated the entire time. There will be times that I'm going to ask you to stand up or lie down or whatever. So modify it as you need. Yeah. So if you're in a space you're like, I don't have that much room, a chair is fine. Or if you're like, hey, I don't want to get on the ground, you don't need to. Yeah. But go ahead and if you need to create some space, do that. Yeah. Feel free to keep the cameras on, turn them off, whatever you need. And go ahead and start by taking a few deep, intentional breaths in and out. Using the breath as a way to really touch and feel the present moment. And I want you to just notice right now, as we're working on this theme of safety, are you feeling a sense of safety in this moment? You may not be, and that's perfectly fine. Or you may be. And if there's a lack of safety in this moment, maybe asking yourself, what do I need right now to help me feel a bit safer, a bit more grounded, centered, connected? I'm using a lot of words here to represent safety. And remember, we're just kind of playing with this idea. Maybe even asking ourselves, what is this safety? Maybe just pondering for a moment before we begin to move into yoga. Does this feel like something you could do that would maybe aid in feeling safe? Or do you need something else right now? That something else may be maybe staying still, or doing a body scan, or something entirely different. And if there's a lack of safety in this moment, maybe just identifying what that feels like, noticing what it feels like to not feel safe or an absence of safety. And doing the same if you feel a sense of safety. What is this like? Now beginning to add some movement in, if that's in your practice today, and bringing the arms out to the sides and up towards the sky, just kind of swinging them out and up, really reaching up, maybe even kind of grabbing towards the ceiling a little bit, really extending the body. And then as you exhale, bring the arms back down. We're going to do a few more of these and flow with the breath. So inhale, bring the arms out and up. And exhale, arms coming back down. And again, inhale. And exhale down. One more round here. Pausing for a moment. Noticing body, mind, what it's like to move gently. Now as you inhale, bring the arms out and up towards the sky. And this time, keeping the right arm up, allowing the left arm to just kind of fall to the side. And create kind of put your fingertips into the ground a little bit. We call these like teepee hands or fingers, and just kind of pushing in, extending tall that right arm. Noticing what's happening to that sense of safety, lack of safety, somewhere in between. Is it shifting, staying the same? And now keeping that right arm up, bending through the left, and just kind of inviting a bend into the body. You might even look up at that left or that right hand if you'd like. And that left hand can just kind of fall to the side or go onto your lap. The body tends to vibrate, maybe even shakes. And is there an impact on this? An impact on your sense of safety, groundedness? As you inhale, bringing the arm back up straight, and then letting that fall to the side, and shaking the arms out, the shoulders out. And then again, inhaling the arms out and up, and then letting that right arm go down and just kind of pushing into the ground with those the right hand, the fingers, kind of making those teepee hands, just reaching straight up with that left arm. Noticing what is happening with movement. In this case, when we are moving and yet staying still, and there's a little bit of maybe shaking or trembling in the body, what's the impact on how you're feeling in this moment, the safety of it, or lack of safety? Maybe even being curious, what makes it safe or unsafe? Now bending through that right arm, and then kind of bending the body over towards the right. And if you'd like, you could look up towards the left hand. And exploring, are there certain sensations in the body that maybe create a sense of ease or dis-ease? A sense of being here or being somewhere else? The next inhale, reaching straight up to the sky with that arm, and then letting it fall and shaking the shoulders out. And noticing what that's like to let go, for the shoulders to maybe drop back down, to no longer be in a posture requiring a ton of muscle activation. Reflect on what this is like. And as you do this and move through this, what may be feeling unsafe or emotions, urges, thoughts, maybe getting caught up in thoughts. And so just make some notes about that. Make some notes and let yourself come back to what we're doing in the present. And if thoughts are present, then again, acknowledging them. Maybe those are some thoughts I need to work with. It can be quite illuminating to be able to say, okay, as I'm moving, I have this thought, and this is what creates dysregulation or unease. And so now we're going to move the body a little bit differently. And so finding a tabletop position and finding your way onto all fours so that your knees are on the ground, hands just below the shoulders. As you do this, you're in this position, you're gonna begin to invite in some cat-cows. If you already know how to do this, then go ahead and begin. Otherwise, you can follow my direction. So on the inhale, allowing the stomach to go down towards the ground, the shoulders and the hips come up and a bit towards each other. And then on the exhale, doing the opposite, bringing the chest towards the hips and bringing that mid back towards the sky. Again, inhale back into that cow. Exhale, cat. And now flowing with your breath, your rhythm. And as you move through these movements, these postures, if you notice that a particular posture creates a certain sense of dysregulation, perhaps something that doesn't feel safe any longer, you have some choices. You can return back to the previous posture. In this case, it may be sitting back on your buttocks in a sitting position. Or you can stay in this position and just pause for a moment and reflect on what about this feels unsafe or dysregulating or disconnected. In other words, how do I know this is the case? One more round of this. And then on the next exhale, pushing back into child's pose, uncurling those toes, bringing the hips just over the heels. And then the head comes down to the floor. You can make fists out of your hands and stack them if you'd like and place the forehead on that. If you've got tight hips like mine, this would be helpful so that the buttocks isn't in the air. But if you have a little bit more flexibility, you might remove one of those fists or both of them, letting the head touch the ground or one of the hands. In this cooling posture, this position in which we're still, noticing a sense of safety here. Anything change, become different, shift for you? As best you can, approaching this as an experimenter, as a scientist, with curiosity. The next inhale, coming back to all fours. Placing the hands just below the shoulders, maybe slightly wider than that. The knees about hip width apart. I'm putting a slight bend into the left arm. You may actually move that left hand closer to the midline of just below maybe the left breastbone or even the sternum area, but on the ground, so that we're going to go into a balance pose soon. And so this just means our hands need to be a little closer together. And as I mentioned the word balance, notice what those words do. Do those shift anything for you? Create any movement? Emotionally, mentally, physically? So tightening through the abdominal muscles a little bit, just kind of like breathe out and kind of hold those for a second, and then keep breathing while you hold the abdomen. This protects the back. And then lifting the right arm up in front of you. And this may be where you stay for the posture today. Otherwise, you can take that left foot back towards the back of the mat. Just pushing in, almost in this like runner's pose. If you'd like, you can lift up that back leg and extend here in both directions towards the front and back of the mat. Checking into sense of connectedness, ease or dis-ease, regulation or dysregulation, safety or lack of safety. Can you maintain safety if that's present, while also trying to balance and maybe parts of the body squeezing, tensing to keep you balanced? On the next exhale, release, and pushing back into child's pose. And as that balance position is building energy, maybe heat building up in the body, maybe asking yourself, what do you need when challenged to also feel safe? If you're unsure, then maybe letting that question just linger. If something does come up, making a mental note of that. Now coming back to all fours. You may want to move this time the right hand in just a little bit, so it's under the right kind of chest, just below it, or even the sternum. And the exhale, kind of tightening those abdomen muscles. Still breathing, just keeping them a little bit tight. And this time lifting the left arm. Again, you may stay here, perfectly fine. Or you may choose to push that right leg back and just kind of push it into the ground. Or if it's in your practice, perhaps lifting that leg. And as you examine here, bring curiosity to this balanced posture, sense of connection, safety. sometimes the part we feel unsafe by, or the stories we're buying into that are causing us to push ourselves past what we're comfortable with, what we know we can do. So see if you can listen to that. What happens if you listen to yourself? What happens to that sense of safety and connection? How do you maintain that while also struggling? In this case, maybe struggling with some tight parts of the body, or parts that maybe having difficulty holding this position. And on the next exhale, bringing everything back down, and once again pushing back into child's pose. In these positions that we get into that may be physically demanding, difficult maybe to balance, maybe causes parts of the body to shake, develops heat. These are just as important as the moments of stillness and these cooling postures, such as child pose that we're in. Maybe just noticing what happens to safety, connection, groundedness. This kind of concept we're tracking today. Is there a change between this cooling posture in this moment or the more heated posture, the warming posture that we were just in that bird dog pose? If there is a difference, maybe asking yourself what feels different. What are you noticing that might be creating change? Next inhale, coming back up to all fours, and then finding your way on to a comfortable seated position. This time with the legs out towards the front. As you're in the seated position with the legs out, taking an inhale, bringing the arms out and up, and this time falling forward, allowing the hands to go as far as they can, and then just landing somewhere on the legs, and then allowing the forehead to drop towards the legs as well. In this posture, what we contend with are a few things. One may be noticing how the belly tends to get in the way. Another may be the history of what we used to be able to do with this posture, and maybe even projecting into the future about what will happen if we don't change this. And there's also a bit of tightness that we may be contending with in the back of the legs. So noticing these different components of the practice. Are any of these making it difficult to feel grounded, present, safe? If so, again, just making notes, just noting it. And can you use the breath as a way to create more space in some of these areas. For example, maybe breathing into the stomach, and as you exhale, letting go of any tension, tightness, and sometimes we even find a pocket of space that we didn't know was there. Perhaps breathing into tightness. The breath can help us to tolerate the tension, but also perhaps even to let some of it go. Now gently walking the hands up the legs and coming to a seated posture again. Now letting the legs be crossed. And then bringing the hands up on the inhale and up towards the sky, and this time allowing the hands to touch, and then bringing the hands down into, by the chest, into a prayer posture. And we're going to end the practice here, so just letting yourself be in this pose for a few moments. Noticing how the body feels, what's happening in the mind. Sense of safety, regulation, wholeness, connection, or the inverse, disconnection, dysregulation, disharmony, lack of safety. The cool thing with mindfulness is whatever the outcome, whatever is happening after doing this practice, it really doesn't matter. Although part of us may want to have it a certain way, it doesn't matter because we still learn regardless of the outcome. We still gain self-awareness, understanding. And this could be learning that we use in the future. Knowing that acknowledging what's happening, being aware of it, being curious, this is the ultimate pattern breaker. So wherever you're at, ending this practice in any way that would honor it in this moment.